Former New York City Mayor Rudy Giuliani's bankruptcy hearing somehow went from a normalish hearing to a complete and utter crap show. According to reports, it got so bad that Giuliani's creditors had raised the possibility of throwing America's mayor into jail. Hilarious. Okay, so now let me give you some context. Giuliani filed for bankruptcy, I think in a way to try to hide his money. So now after that happened, after he filed for bankruptcy, Giuliani and two of his creditors submitted 3 competing proposals concerning how to adjudicate the proceeding. Now, initially, Giuliani had filed for Chapter 11 bankruptcy, but just an hour before the start of the morning hearing, he asked the court to either dismiss the proceeding or, in the alternative, to switch it to a Chapter 7. Now, what's the difference between a Chapter 7 and a Chapter 11, and what would dismissal do for him? Well, Chapter 7 is considered a liquidation bankruptcy. So now it would require you to basically liquidate your assets and then use the proceeds to pay off your creditors. Now, it doesn't require a repayment plan, but the business would have to sell some assets to pay off those creditors. And when all the debtors' assets are sold, the remaining debt would generally be forgiven. Okay, so look, Giuliani is facing $158 million in judgments against him. He does not have $158 million worth of assets. I'm almost certain of that, okay? And so sells off whatever assets he has or that are known, okay? And, personal assets, whatever. And then his business assets might not be touched, right? And assets that we don't know that he has, okay, that he is successfully hidden, whatever. All of that, as soon as the assets that we know are sold, that's forgiven, and then he's good to go. And then, oh, look at that, he ended up squirreling a couple of $1 million away, and he can continue his pretty lavish lifestyle. So, okay, that's probably why Giuliani would want Chapter 7. Now, Chapter 11 is considered a reorganization bankruptcy that allows businesses to maintain operations while creating a plan to repay their creditors in full. So you can understand why Giuliani is like, oh, no Chapter 11 for me, right? Because any debts must be paid back through any future earnings and is generally used by businesses. Well, Giuliani has some business ties with Mike Lindell, okay? And so he's going to get an income from that. So any of that income would end up going to his creditors. So that's not something that he would be interested in. Now, at the hearing, Giuliani had made some remarks to the judge, and of course the attorney for Georgia poll workers, Freeman and Moss, two of Giuliani's creditors, also had a chance to speak as well. This was a Zoom call, right? Now, Freeman and Moss hold that $148 million judgment against Giuliani for defamation, and of course the rest is through various creditors, right? Now, while speaking with the judge, Freeman and Moss's attorney brought up putting Giuliani in prison, stating, unless Your Honor wants to entertain putting America's mayor in prison, I suggest you throw the case out, Your Honor. So Giuliani, of course, in response, called the attorney's remarks defamatory, and even was nearly cut off during that exchange, which started when that attorney, Rachel Strickland, had said that if the case was allowed to continue, Giuliani would essentially get a hall pass. She then cited his pattern of filing late and inaccurate financial reports. She then suggested that he had committed bankruptcy crimes. Interesting. That's where Giuliani jumped in, saying, "Would someone get them on the phone? Your Honor, this is Rudolph Giuliani. Strickland's comments, they were highly defamatory, Your Honor." The judge responded with, "Sir, everybody gets a chance to be heard, but you cannot interrupt someone else while they're being heard." The judge then threatened to cut his line off if Giuliani didn't stop talking. So that is pretty hilarious. So I told you what Giuliani wants. What does Freeman and Moss want? Well, they also want that bankruptcy petition dismissed. Why? It's because they assert the petition will lead to a majority of his estate going to professional fees. A dismissal would allow Freeman and Moss to go after Giuliani's assets outside of the bankruptcy proceedings, because right now there is currently a stay on everyone going after his assets, okay? And however, the official creditors committee had asked the court to continue the petition and appoint a Chapter 11 trustee, which would ensure that they get paid. Now, Phil Dublin, a lawyer for the creditors committee, argued that the appointment of a trustee would result in the most equitable outcome for the creditors, mainly them, and who they represent. Dublin added that keeping it as a Chapter 11 would permit investigations into his finances, including the alleged unpaid $2 million in legal fees owed by Donald Trump, the Trump campaign, or the Republican National Committee, which he was never going to get. You think Donald Trump's going to pay his lawyers? No, that money never got paid. He never got it, and that's why it'd be a waste to investigate it, in my opinion. Now, the former mayor's assets, they said Giuliani's lawyer had actually argued that they would still be available to creditors. His only income is social service payments, adding that he's an 80-year-old disbarred attorney who may choose to discontinue working should a Chapter 11 trustee be appointed. Now, you think he's going to stop working? No, he's already got a deal with Mike Lindell to do a radio show. Now, Strickland responded to that admission by saying, "We all suspect that if a trustee is appointed, Giuliani is going to sit on his butt and just not make any money." He added that if the former mayor is working for himself, I suspect he will be hustling for Rudy Coffee and all the rest of his money-making endeavors and funneling cash to all of his businesses that he claims are out of the reach of creditors. Giuliani, quote, regards this court as a pause button on his woes while he continues to live his life. And look, in one of the previous segments, I had talked about some of his expenditures. $2,000 a month on expenditures from Amazon, just alone. He's got a $43,000 stipend, right? Where he's allowed to live on it, $43,000, and he's having trouble. Okay, he's having trouble living on that. Imagine that. I couldn't. I barely make $43,000 a year. Okay, I couldn't imagine living on that for a month and still having trouble. Okay, still having problems. Couldn't. So no, I don't think Strickland's wrong. I think he is doing whatever he can to try to prevent any of his assets from being paid off to his creditors, being used to pay off his creditors. And so I think he's also trying to funnel money to his businesses, like the deal with Frank Speech, owned by the MyPillow guy. That said, I do believe that in the end of the day, dismissal is probably for the best. Now, as I mentioned before, the reason Giuliani would prefer that is because he wants to appeal that $148 million judgment. That's why he's like, no. I'll take either dismissal or Chapter 7, but not Chapter 11. Now, I mentioned Chapter 7, probably the best for him, but dismissal, he thinks that he's got a shot at being able to appeal that defamation lawsuit. Good luck, or that judgment. Good luck. Now, everybody else wants dismissal so they can successfully start going after his assets. Now, where's the judge leaning? Well, bad news for Giuliani. Judge Sean Lane told the court, "I'm leaning towards dismissal, frankly, because I am concerned that the past is prologue and that issues about transparency will continue." So remember, there is a trustee in charge of Giuliani's finances right now, and that trustee has not been given the correct financial information by Rudy Giuliani. He has not been supplying him with the correct information about his finances. And so dismissal seems like kind of the best way, for everyone to be able to actually have their shot at getting what they're owed. And so not good for Rudy, and the court is expected to rule on this probably around the end of the week. And so we're going to see which way he goes and how it ends up for America's mayor. Thank you for watching. If you enjoyed this video, please like, share, subscribe, hit the bell icon in order to get notified whenever a new video is released. And if you want to support independent, progressive media through this difficult time where it seems like everybody is shutting down, you can become a member on our YouTube page, you can become a subscriber on Facebook, or you can go to my Patreon, patreon.com/Jeff Waldorf. Thank you.